What if the person who knows you best is memorizing your habits, your laugh, your keys on the counter? Because they are not your friend at all, but something patient wearing a friendship like a mask. Welcome back to Whispering Abyss. Tonight I brought you 5 stories about bad friends and how trust can rock quietly until the floor gives way. From a midnight pact that refuses to end to a borrowed face that smiles too perfectly, every tale is a map of red flags you missed until it was too late. Tell me in the comments which story got under your skin first and why you think it happened. Story 1. The sleepover pact we should never have kept the mug hum the first time I stopped talking. A tiniest tremor against the enamel rim like a mouth testing a note, and I told myself it was a storm shaking the old building. But the mug only sang when I fell quiet, which is an odd way for weather to behave, right? Lena showed up at 2:41 a.m., with hair pasted to her forehead, hoodie dark with rain. She asked to crash on my couch because the bus is stalled in the flood, and her phone was on 5%. We had not spoken in months. She looked past me into my kitchen and smiled at the chipped white mug I always use, the one with a hairline crack, like a crescent under the lip. I did not invite her in so much as step aside, and she slipped through with a wet penny smell that trailed behind her like a coincidence that did not want to introduce itself. You will say that is an odd thing to notice. Wet pennies. But when you archive audio late at night, like I do, you learn to trust small textures. The air had a coppery tang even though nothing was cooking, and her hoodie dripped on a towel while thunder rolled down the hall like furniture being dragged upstairs. The microwave door showed our reflections. I was reaching for the kettle. The reflection of my hand reached a breath sooner, which made me breathe a little later, which made everything feel like the apartment was a frame and we were moving inside it. We could do the hour, she said, and her voice was soft like the underbelly of a secret. For old times. I tried to laugh. We were 15, I said. I remember none of it except we counted from 3:03 to 4:04 and swore not to open the door because we were idiots. Not idiots, she said, finishing me. Devout. Lena always loved finishing my sentences. Back then we called it a bit. She leaned into the counter now, eyes tracking my mouth as if I were teaching class. If you've ever had a friend like that, the kind who answers with your breath, you know it feels like standing on unstable flooring and pretending to dance. The kettle clicked. When I set the chipped mug down, its rim thrummed, a faint, tight hum like a tuning fork buried in ceramic. I looked at the mug and then at her, and she did not blink, as if she had been waiting for it to sing. I lifted it. Silence. I set it down again. That little hum again, only in the space after a sentence. Do you hear what I am telling you? We made tea. The hall lights flickered once and died. I could see the lit exit sign bleed a green rectangle onto the floor outside my door. Rain needled the windows. I pulled the chain on the lamp, and the shade glowed like a small moon. Lena stirred sugar into her cup without looking, just listening to me breathe. The microwave reflection watched us both, but I swear it listened first. The rule about the knocks, she said. Do you remember? I did not speak. The mug hummed, soft as a breath. 2, then wait, she said, and the 3rd is not for you. We were 15 when we made that pact. We had watched a video about Midnight Game, and we wrote our own rules with a Sharpie on a pillowcase. You count from 3:03 to 4:04 with a candle burning. You do not open the door after the 3rd knock. You finish what your friend starts. If you break the sequence, you invite something that speaks like the echo of your name in a stairwell. You know how children invent monsters with the exact keys to their houses. At 3:02, something knocked on my door twice. Not loud, not even demanding. 2 neat raps like knuckles saying hello through a glove. We looked at each other. I laughed because adults do. I put the mug by the door for no reason I can explain, and in the thin pause after my laughter hummed like a mosquito caught in porcelain. We did not go to the door. We did not talk about the sound. We talked about anything else and held our breath like a shared coin, which is another way of listening for a third knock that you tell yourself you will not hear. When I went to look out the peephole, there was tape over from the inside, a neat square of cloudy packing tape I did not remember applying. Through the translucent film, the hallway was a green blur. A fingerprint whirl in the tape looked like mine. I told myself the landlord must have done it for painting or privacy. If the tape is inside, you say, who put it there, and why can you taste pennies when you do not bleed? I work at a small community radio station as an overnight ingest tech. Every hour, I pull the day's recorded shows from a shared drive and load them into the automation. It is not a glamorous job, but the rhythm of careful listening keeps me steady. Missing the 5 a.m. ingest will mean the 7 a.m. news starts late. My boss keeps polite lists. A late is a mark. A second late is a conversation. Reputation is a rug that slides when you are not looking, which is why I check my phone too much. At 3:03, my clock rolled over, and the power flickered, and the apartment fell into a briny darkness smelling faintly of copper and rain. We found one candle in the drawer. It was a gift from a fundraiser. It had the station logo printed on the glass, and the wax was the color of bees a day before they die. We lit it. The flame stood thin and listening. We set it on the coffee table and watched our faces move in the window like someone else was doing it. The rules require a candle for the hour. The rules require a mouth to finish what another starts. The rules were written by us, but they behaved like something older that had been waiting for our handwriting to catch up. At 3:07, we tried the neighbor. I slid a note under the door of 3B. Mr. Dar is older than everyone in the building. A wheeze that travels through walls, an oxygen tank sign a vent at night. He leaves his packages outside my door almost every week. We draw little arrows on sticky notes. I wrote, "Power out here too?" and slid it under. A minute later, it slid back. Same torn edge, same crease. My handwriting had changed. The words were mine, but the letters were an older version of me. I had a way of curving the Y in U when I was 15. The note had that curve. Lena smiled as if she recognized my Y. She put her ear to the vent. A breathy hiss moved in the ductwork, like a sleeping animal that dreams of running. "He is awake," she said, and the candle leaned toward her mouth just slightly, as if drawn by how she formed the word awake. I typed in the building group chat, "Delivered." No replies. The read receipts sat like empty eyes. I clicked on the landlord's contact to complain about the hall lights, then closed it. The battery indicator said 9%. The candle's glass warmed my knuckles. The storm scratched the window with tree branches. At 3:12, the mug hummed, even though no one had set it down. It hummed in the quiet that followed a silence, which is like hearing a wave and realizing the ocean is inside the cup, not outside. "Say the hour with me," she said. "Say it how we used to." I said, "No," and the word ended too close to her mouth. She touched my wrist. "Start and I will finish," she said. "I promise." We spoke together. We were stupid. We were lonely. We kept an old ghost on life support because it made us feel like good storytellers. 3:03. I began. To 4:04, she finished. The mug hummed, low and eager. The candle leaned toward her lips. Somewhere in the vent and always took a deeper breath, or what sounded like a breath, and the microwave reflection opened its mouth a fraction before I did. At 3:19, the hall lights blinked and went out a second time. Someone knocked twice again, and then waited like a good student. The taped peephole stared back at my eye. I told myself I would tear it off, but my fingers could not find the edge. And then I realized I'd used this tape before, a certain brand from the station that clouds up like a storm when you press it. I had taped the peephole once because of a light that would not stop peering in. Only that is not a sentence a person says about a peephole, is it? We counted in whispers. The hours stretched. "Can we talk about why you came?" I said, and the mug's rim hummed under the soft thud of my words. Lena laughed, and the sound had a ring in it, a second tone behind her tone like a thin voice standing on someone else's shoes. She moved her mouth like a choir student. She finished my sentence. She finished the next one. I said, "You always do that." And she said, "I always do that with me, exactly with me, like a mirror with better memory." I told myself the wheeze was a neighbor. I told myself his breath filled the duct when the pressure in the building changed. I told myself it had nothing to do with copper breath or humming ceramics or tape over an eye. When an explanation wants you to stare at it, that is when you should look at the thing it hopes to hide. At 3:27, the power cut to everything. The refrigerator stopped the noise I had not noticed it making. The humming in the mug did not stop. It deepened. "You remember how we did the game," Lena said, her voice barely above the candle spitting. "We said 2 knocks and wait, and not to open the door after the third." "The third," I said, "is not for you," she finished. Her face was beautiful in candlelight, and that is a cruel sentence to write, because beauty and danger share a language that sounds like your name pronounced slowly down the length of a hallway. She kissed me then. It was not a surprise if you have ever had that friend who tries on your face in conversation before they try your mouth in a room. The kiss was soft and copper moved around my tongue as if someone kept a key on the back of their teeth. A hard outline touched my lip. She pulled away, smiling with that second tone in her laugh. "What do you have in your mouth?" I said, half joking. "Words," she said, and the mug sang approval. At 3:31, my phone buzzed. A text from the landlord. A photo of the 3rd floor corridor with a caption about the electrician. In the photo, a paramedic rolled someone on a gurney through a slice of green light. The wrist had a hospital band. Name, Dar. Time, admitted at 11:52 p.m. The wheeze through the vent did not belong to the neighbor. It belonged to something that liked to be believed. The knocks came again, but not on the door. They came from inside the wardrobe by the bathroom. 2 gentle taps like fingernails checking the grain of wood. We stood and listened. In the silence afterward, the mug on the floor by the door hummed, as if it disagreed with what the taps had announced. The wardrobe door was closed. I wished the tape were on that door's mirror. It was only on the peephole, which meant the eye was the wrong place to be afraid of, which meant the threat was already inside, which is a thought you should not have at 3:33 when your phone shows 1 bar battery left. At 3:33, my phone vibrated again, a voicemail notification without a ring. It said it was from unknown. The timestamp said 3:33. It said the message length was 13 seconds. I did not press play because the thought of my phone making my voice while I was holding it made my throat feel borrowed, and also because my battery had moved to 8%, and also because the candle seemed to lean more fiercely now toward Lena and the wardrobe. As if flame has preferences, "We have to finish it," she said. "We broke the pact once." "I did," I said before I could stop myself, and the admission fell out and landed on the floor like a coin set spinning with a long tail. Years ago, after we made the rules on that sleepover, I did open the door on the 3rd knock. I was curious. I thought traditions were locks to be picked, so they would not control you. Nothing stood in the hall except the green exit light and the smell of wet iron from the stair rail. And after that night, my conversation started to sound like someone whispering answers in my head a breath before I spoke. You practice finishing someone's sentences, and then you hear something practice yours. "What did you let in?" she asked, but it sounded like she was asking for both of us. At 3:37, the radio station app pinged. A test alert. "Are you still on for the 5 a.m. ingest?" The line read, and there was a dot next to my name. I turned the phone to airplane mode to save the clock and the last bits of battery. It felt like choosing between a job and a voice, which is a melodramatic way to describe turning off a notification. But everything we do late at night has the power to rearrange our tomorrow. In the silence that followed, the mug purred. The wardrobe tapped twice and then sighed, as if it were counting too. "Say it with me," Lena said, all the way to the end. I tied our wrists together with a pair of old studio headphones from my backpack. The cable is thick. It does not cut easily. Our palms sweated against each other. "I will finish what you start," I said, and I meant it as an apology, as a make-good for years of letting heavy things drip between us. But the cable did not care about intention, and we had established a rule that something else could use. At 3:42, we began the hour in earnest. We sat cross-legged on the floor across from the wardrobe. The candle breathed. The window rattled with storm teeth. Every time I began a sentence, she finished it. And every time she began, I finished, and the mug's hum grew thick, and the vent has found a pitch that threaded our syllables, and the whole apartment became a mouth looking for harmony. If you think I am stretching, you have never heard two notes snap into tune in a small room and felt the air go taut like fishing line. We hit 3:47. The knocks came twice again. Then nothing. A pause like a person holding a third knock in their closed fist to see if you would ask for it. The candle leaned toward Lena's mouth. The wax pooled and warbled like a throat. My tongue felt heavy. There was a metallic taste I could not swallow away. She exhaled and the flames stretched to listen. The phone on airplane mode remained dead. Lit face reminded me that time was a thing other people could see even if I could not call for help. "You trained it," I said quietly. "Back then, when you left the ends of your sentences hanging like branches and let something finish them." She looked at me with an expression that was not guilt so much as satisfaction. "We trained it," she said, and her finish slid into my start like a key into a mouth. She stuck out her tongue a little, and thereunder was the outline of a tiny key, the metal blunted and reddish, as if someone had been holding it against a battery. She laughed when I flinched. The laugh had two notes. "It is for locking," she said, but from the inside. Something moved inside the wardrobe. Not a thump, a light adjustment, like a person in a narrow space turning their head to listen. We had thought the knocks meant a visitor waiting in the hall. The tape over the peephole suggested the same. A very patient misdirection. All along we had been knocking for ourselves. All along the hall was a stage we had built for our attention, while the voice learned the acoustics in the wardrobe and in the vent and in my mouth. At 3:53, I thought of the station again. I saw the morning show host standing in an empty studio tapping the clock. I pictured the list my boss kept. I saw the words reliability concerns in an email. That is how the horror works. It does not try to be blood. It tries to be a choice. I told Lena we should abort. I said we could untie. We could break the hour. We could break the finishing. She smiled, and the cable pulled tight around our wrists as if someone else had a hand on it. "The third knock is not for you," she said, which is a strange line to say when a wardrobe had not knocked a third time. And then I heard myself in the voicemail I had not played yet, my voice muffled by a door saying, "It is me. Let me in." And I realized what sound a third knock would make if it came from us. At 3:57, the wardrobe knocked a third time. I will not describe its volume. It was not loud. It was exactly the volume you need to hear your own name inside your head and think you are clever for recognizing it. The candle stretched thin and shivered. The hum in the mug rose until I felt it in my teeth. The key under her tongue glinted, and I understood that she had kept it there, because the lock was not the door, but the voice that would open when two tones matched perfectly. I did not open the wardrobe. I did something worse. I started a sentence and then did not finish. I said, "If I," and held my breath, and Lena leaned forward, completed. Mouth open, and the note behind her note surged to meet her, and the mug hummed and the vent hissed, and for a moment I heard three voices standing on the same word, and the room became a string pulled attention. Then I jerked my wrist away, the cable bit, and I shouted something ugly, off-key, a broken note like dropping glass, and the harmony snapped. The sound that followed was thin and disappointed. The wardrobe sighed. The candle bowed. The hum eased from my teeth. The second voice in her laugh went quiet like a hand withdrawing from a glove. She glared at me, hatred and something like grief in one face. "Why would you break it?" she asked, and she did not finish me. "Because if it needs harmony," I said, panting, "then I will give it noise." She spat. The key clinked on the floor with a sound like a coin that knows the table. It was small and old, a skeleton key that had browned with its own memory. The smell of pennies rose as if the apartment had skin. I looked at my door and understood something brutal. The key did not fit any lock I could see. It fit the idea of a lock in my voice that could be turned from within. Lena lunged for it, and the cable snapped in two, a copper thread curling like a worm. She grabbed the key and stuffed it back under her tongue, as if she were feeding someone else. At 4:01, my ears rang. The wardrobe had gone quiet. But quiet is the most talkative thing in a room like that. The candle guttered low. My phone showed 6%. I turned airplane mode off and hit play on the voicemail, because sometimes the only way to keep a thing from growing is to name it out loud. My voice spilled into the room from my own phone. "It is me," it said softly, like a woman outside in rain. "Let me in. I am cold." The recording had a faint hum under it, a ceramic tone, and when it said the word in the middle of a sentence, the hum surged like approval. I let it play once. I let it play again. On the third play, the voice overlapped the last syllable with itself, and suddenly I understood the loop in a small, hateful way. We had never been calling something from outside. We had been teaching ourselves how to open from inside by loving a ritual that rewards finishing. We had put tape over the peephole, so the eye would not learn the trick. We had planted the mug like a small altar for resonance. We had given an hour a name and asked it to sing. At 4:03, the clock on my phone ticked. The candle shrank. The room felt exhausted, as if the building had been holding a plank pose for the last hour. Lena looked hollow. She reached for my hand, and for a moment she was only a tired friend who had tried something stupid in a storm. "Finish it for me," she whispered. "Just once more. I am so tired." I almost did. I will tell you the truth. Tired makes cowards and saints of all of us, sometimes at the same time. I opened my mouth. The mug thrummed faintly. The vent hiss lifted, listening. I closed my mouth like a fist. The candle went out at 4:04. The darkness folded over us like a blanket that smelled like copper and rain and the dry sigh of spent wax. I turned on my phone's flashlight. The wardrobe still like furniture again. The tape peephole could be peeled if I found an edge. The hum in the mug was gone. Lena licked her lips. The key did not reappear. She lay down on the couch and closed her eyes. The storm had gone east. The green exit sign printed its tired color on the hall. At 4:21, I sat at the desk and loaded the morning shows by the glow of my dying phone. I hit send with 1% to spare. The automation took the files without complaint, like a god that asks only that the rights be done, not that they make sense. I do not know if that detail matters to you, But to me it meant that some parts of my life still belonged to a clock with no voice inside it. By noon, the hall lights worked. The landlord texted that the electrician found nothing unusual. He sent me a clearer picture of the corridor. In the edge of the frame, a strip of tape clung to my peephole. If you zoomed in, you could see a fingerprint in the cloudy glue. It looked like mine. I peeled it off while the building smelled like someone rained pennies in the stairwell. I did not keep the chip mug. I threw it in the trash chute. Hours later, I heard a hum from the laundry room when two people stopped talking at the same time. Maybe sound likes to travel. Maybe mugs only sing when no one watches. I moved apartments at the end of the month. New place, new street, same job. I bought new cups that do not hum. I blocked Lena's number because forgiveness and safety are cousins who do not always speak. I unpacked at midnight and set a single cup on the counter. It was not chipped. It was thick as if it swallowed sound. When I set it down, there was a quiet tremor in the rim. Not a hum, not even a note. More like a memory of a note that used to live there. I told myself it was a building, and maybe it was, but the phone recorded a new voicemail that day, and when I played it that night, I heard my own voice saying, "I am at the door," with a small ceramic tone behind it, as if the door I meant was not made of wood. Sometimes I stand in my new kitchen at 3:03, and I do not talk. I listen to what the quiet does with my breath. I listen for copper in the air. I listen for a wheeze in the vent that is not a machine. I find edges of tape where none should be, and I tell myself the green light outside is comforting. I tell myself the third knock is no one at all. I tell myself it was always us training our echoes to return. Then the cup hums once, very lightly, like an old friend laughing behind a door, and I ask the question you would ask too if you follow me this far. If the third knock is not for me, then who heard it first? And who taught it to wait? Now we move to the second story. Story 2. My friend who texted me from tomorrow. The first message arrived at 2:58 a.m. Timestamp for tomorrow at 3:16 a.m. A clean white bubble that said, "I can see you sleeping," and the photo was my room from the angle of the door, and I was in it, and my phone was in my hand, glowing like a lie I had already told. So tell me how a picture beats you to the moment it shows? If you have ever worked the university library night desk, you know the sounds it keeps. The printer breathing slow. The fluorescent hum that is not a hum but a thin, steady pressure in the ear. The vending machine thunk. Carpet that eats footsteps. I have keys, a badge, a narrow office behind the help counter, and a job title that makes my mother gnaw like she understands what IT reshelving means. After midnight, I walk through stacks with my little flashlight and pretend the books are sleeping animals. When I lean in, some of them snore. Chris used to walk those aisles with me when we were freshmen. He has always loved an audience and an exit. He could say a cruel thing and then laugh before you reacted, like he was helping you get to the joke. After we drifted, he still popped up when he was bored. He once convinced me to share a system password to cue a playlist for his podcast. It was just for a night. It rolled off the logs. He kept a screenshot anyway. A souvenir he could hold to my ear if I ever forgot to pick up when he called. I stared at the text. There was a faint smell in the office. Hot dust and ozone, like a printer warming. My ears rang once, a single bright tone, then silence. I locked the screen and looked around. The office door was half open. The corridor outside was a dim tunnel edged in green light from the glowing exit signs at the building like emergency constellations. I told myself Chris had finally stepped up his games. He was good with edits. He was better with control. The thought made me smile. It did not reach my stomach. Another message appeared before I could swallow the first. Do not forget the green exit sign, he wrote, and added 3 dots that kept pulsing as if the future was still typing. You know the sign, right? I wrote, stopped. How are you sending from tomorrow? I waited for the read receipt. Like a person watching a door they do not want to open, the dots appeared. Then a photo fell into the thread. A hallway in our library. The green astral glow of an exit, casting a long smear on the carpet. In the center of the frame, a dark shape slumped against the wall. Blurry, yes, but the shape had my jacket, the bruised denim shoulder. I zoomed until the pixels were large enough to show their corners, and then I zoomed more, as if corners will confess when they get big. Do you remember when we synced our contacts? He wrote. You said, trust me. You said like a dare. Enough? I said out loud to the empty office, because sometimes the only person you can bluff is the room. Ideale, Chris. His avatar spun. The first ring came not from the speaker, but from down the hall. Muffled, a cheerful chime inside a drawer. The second ring joined it. The sound was just around the corner from the help desk. I followed my own call. The lost and found drawer under the counter buzzed against its track. I pulled it open and found a cheap smartphone with a cracked case pulsing with my call to Chris. When I answered, my own voice echoed back in a clipped loop. I hung up and the office smelled sharp again, as if air had been sliced with a thin hot wire. I texted him from a different app. Where are you? He replied with a bubble that said, I will be here at 3:16 a.m. The time on my phone said 3 o'clock straight. My body believed in 3 o'clock. The message believed in tomorrow. It started small. That is how you get led. A photo of my coffee cup spilling on the help desk. 10 seconds later, my elbow knocked it over. A message saying a student in a red hoodie will ask for the charger you do not have. He showed up, mumbling thanks. His hoodie had a stain like a continent. The charger he needed was the one I checked out at 1 a.m. and forgot to log. I glanced up at the security camera bubble in the ceiling and hated how the library cut you into a grid. I told myself I could still laugh later. The text stacked like cards. At 3:07, a warning. Do not check your reflection at 3:14. This one came with ellipses that pulsed. The typing dots are a cruel thing when you think the writer is several minutes ahead of you. It felt like a person in a different time tapping their finger on my window. The printer woke and printed nothing. A tone played in my right ear, just once, thin and high, like the very first moment of feedback before the mic retreats. No call showed on the screen. My chest prickled the way it does on stair landings when a floor vibrates. I cleaned the coffee and told myself to be a grown-up. This is the part where you tell me I should have turned the phone off. I did try. I held down the side button, waited for the slider, and saw my own face reflected on black. For a second it lagged. My reflection blinked a fraction too slow, like an actor trying to remember her line. I locked the screen before 3:14 because I did not want to know what it would do if I let it catch up. At 3:12, he texted a photo of a calendar notification. The alert badge said emergency drill. Time 3:14. The ringtone would be a single chime, then silence. I watched my phone without breathing. At 3:14, the chime played once and stopped. The screen showed nothing. What is louder than a sound you were promised and almost heard? This is where I started bargaining. I thought about the password screenshot. I thought about the way Chris would smile when he called a manipulation a prank. He could have built an automation that scheduled messages with modified timestamps. He bragged freshman year that he could make a phone lie about when it rang. He could be sitting in the parking lot right now pressing send and watching me through the front windows like a kid spying through leaves. You know how relief arrives dressed like anger, so you do not have to thank it. Another bubble appeared. You will choose the wrong stairwell, he wrote. Do not tonight. What stairwell? I asked the office. My voice sounded like someone else had been using it and had now returned it with new dents. I typed, if this is you, fine. If this is an app, fine. Show me something I can check. He sent a picture of my keychain breaking. It was a little metal ring with 3 keys, one for my locker, one for the help desk, one for the stairwell doors that lock after midnight. In the photo, the ring was open like a snap jaw and my keys were falling toward carpet, a green exit glow painting a stripe across one key's worn teeth. It looked a little fake, which I hated. I wanted it to look obviously fake. That would have been a present. At 3:18, a new noise. The Wi-Fi died. The access point light above the stacks winked from green to dull. The sign-in page dimmed on the public terminals like an aquarium after hours. I checked the office router. The lights jittered and went out completely. Power flickered once. The vending machine emitted a long, disappointed click. The building went still enough that I could hear the air returns turn themselves down. The security guard should have texted. He likes to send me photos of weird book covers when he makes rounds. My phone showed one thread only. Chris. Every other name had gone gray, as if my contacts had fled to the safe room and left me outside with the alarm. See, you are alone now, he wrote. Which stairwell will you pick? I looked up at the ceiling cameras again and hated their black domes. Something about being watched by empty eyes makes you hurry decisions. I tried the landline by the printer, the one that runs on its own devious power. Static and a sweet high has filled my ear like an insect that knows your name. I set the handset down and watched the printer spit a single sheet with no ink on it. The smell in the office sharpened toward ozone. A storm was not coming. The building was pressurizing with a story. I did what angry men in movies do. I took my phone and brought it down hard on the edge of the desk. The glass spider with a sound that woke an aisle of silent books. The screen died. For a second I felt like I had outwitted a magician by cutting the deck in half. Then the main monitor on my desk snapped alive, and a white bubble slid up from the taskbar. Do not check your reflection at 3:14, it said. The timestamp in the corner of the monitor read 3:16. Another bubble floated up. The keys are going to go. The green sign will show you how. Behind the text, my lock login wallpaper reflected the green afterglow of the exit lights that seeped through the glass doors. My login icon smiled like it had heard a joke before I had. Okay, I said, so this is a hack. Saying it made me feel righteous. The monitor is on the library network. If Chris compromised a service account, he could push messages. He bragged about that once, how easy it is to ride permissions you should not have. The office smelled clean and sour at the same time. I could taste metal when I breathed in. I tried to log out. The keyboard typed in final little delays, like I was dictating to a friend who insists on editing as you speak. The bubble on the monitor pulsed into ellipses. The typing dots looked too alive to be a script. They paused. They resumed. They seemed to wait for my breathing to match their rhythm. You will see a bruise on your neck in the reflection. It said next. It will appear before anything touches you. I do not want to be the person who obeys the text on a screen, but I looked anyway because defiance is just a shape of obedience if you squint. I turned the monitor black and leaned to see my face in the glass. For a heartbeat, my reflection lagged, catching each twitch a frame late. My throat was clean. Then a shadow bloomed below my left ear, a soft oval like a thumbprint pressed under skin. I touched it. The glass touched back a second later. The bruise deepened from nothing like a thought that is glad to be remembered. The air near my ear cooled as if someone blew gently from behind a door. You are not funny, I told the room. I hit the emergency lights, and the corridors outside turned aquamarine. The green exit signs burned brighter, the kind of color that looks painted on the dark. Somewhere in the stacks, a cart shifted by itself, which is to say gravity finished the job a student had started. I picked up my keychain. The metal ring had a worn notch where the ends meet. Part of it had always been weak. The ends looked like lips forgetting how to kiss. At 3:21, the alarm chirped, not the fire alarm. The building test alert, the one they claim is silent after hours. It gave one polite beep and died. The printer breathed in and out like it was practicing labor. I walked from the office to the help desk and stared down the long central aisle. The two stairwell doors waited at the far ends, left and right. Twins that would not agree be identical. Chris's last message on the monitor kept its calm tone. "Choose right," it said. "I am saying please." I stood there longer than a thriller allows. I thought of the screenshot of the password. I thought of the night we synced our contacts as a drinking game, how he had laughed and said, "Imagine if we could prank ourselves next week." I remembered how the library looks from outside at night. It is a glass box full of green signs. Every door looks like the right one when you are late. If you have ever stared at two choices long enough, you know how your brain starts to invent a third that is called wait until this problem solves itself. "Left," I said to no one. I am not petty, but I have a streak that prefers to fall through my own trapdoor rather than walk obediently through a lit archway. I walked toward the left stairwell. My keys trailed my thigh. The ring held, then wobbled, then popped open. The sudden absence of weight on the keychain felt like a small betrayal. The keys fell, hit my shoe, skittered under the help desk, and kissed the carpet with a chime only I heard. The green glow reached the metal and painted a stripe like a surgical field. My mouth tasted like a penny left on a radiator. Another bubble on the monitor. "Now the picture," he wrote, and the photo arrived on the screen rather than my phone. It was the same hall with the green sign, the same smear of light, the same slump of jacket in the center. Only now the jacket's shoulder bore a bright new scrape, where carpet meets skin. The timestamp said 3:16 a.m. My neck throbbed under the bruise, as if the picture had reached back with two fingers to check my pulse. I got on my knees and reached for the keys under the counter. The lower shelves smell like cardboard. A dusty plastic bin sits back there with flyers no one wants and a lint roller that clings to hairs from 1,000 arms. Something clicked inside the stairwell behind the left door. A pressure change, air preparing to be moved. The library is polite in how it tells you your weight in that moment. If you pay attention, it can feel like a hand under your ribs. I took the left door. It swung and was side disuse. The stairwell beyond was a well of cold, chalky light. The walls were painted a tired cream. The steps were concrete, pocked with old gum fossils. The green exit sign at the bottom bleached everything into a hospital shade. Halfway down, I paused. The air smelled like a summer storm had been taken apart and stored in boxes. My ears rang again, a single pure ping that made the bruise on my neck pulse in time. I heard footsteps above me that were not mine. Soft, measured, not a person descending, but someone pacing match slow at the landing as if to sync with whatever lived in the beep. "Chris." I called, a stupid word in a stairwell that carries its own joke. The footsteps paused a fraction too late and started again. I ran the rest of the way, which is to say I tried. My foot landed on the lip of a step, swept by dust. The rubber on my sneaker slid. My hand shot for the rail. My fingers touched green light and missed iron by a hair. My shoulder hit the edge. Pain promised to bloom later. My keychain scraped the concrete and sang one final thin note as the metal ring caught and snapped. I lay on the landing and smiled like an idiot because the first thing you feel after not falling to death is gratitude. So sharp it comes out as laughter. I was 4 steps up from the lower floor. I could see out through the square of wire glass. The corridor beyond was lit a little brighter, as if someone had told that floor the power outage was over. I stood. My neck throbbed with a bruise older than my body. I pressed my palm to it and looked at the glass. My reflection arrived with one calm breath of delay. In the reflection, a dark shape moved up behind my shoulder, a long smear resolving into a person like me in a jacket like mine with a scrape like the one I just made, and I understood the picture had not been of the future hallway. It had been of this moment, from the angle of the stair door, sent by a device that knew where I would be because I had already arrived. The door at the bottom clicked. The pressure in the hall shifted. The green exit haloed the frame. A phone on the other side vibrated, close enough to feel through metal. The sting of ozone brightened. A text bubble slid onto monitor back in the office, unseen by me, and repeated itself, and then repeated again. The library does not like to be a witness. It likes to be a recorder. I reach for the handle because this is who we are. We love to make contact with the surface that separates our breath from our picture. I opened the door. The corridor looked like the photo. Of course it did. My jacket carried its new scrape proudly like a membership card. At the far end, 5 carts waited in a hush. The nearest exit sign painted a long rectangle on the floor. The scent in the air had that faint metal that rides the first minutes after a light rain. A phone lay under the sign in the frame of light. It buzzed once like a sleeper trying to wake. The screen faced down. I heard typing more than I heard vibration. The soft haptic TSK of ellipses that prefer to remain dots rather than become words. I bent to pick up the phone, and the bruise on my neck flashed the way a bruise does when your body remembers exactly what made it. There was no one in the corridor but me. There was the hint of someone because my eyes still wanted a cause behind an effect. I lifted the phone and turned it over. The lock screen showed my face from my student ID, younger by 2 years, smiling like I had been told I would be happy later. The notification said, "One message from Chris." The preview read, "Choose right, Jordan." The time said 3:16 a.m. tomorrow. The green exit glow painted my fingers a sickly saint's color. I do not want to pretend I made a brave choice then. I made a stupid small one that counted. I backed to the stairwell door, turned the knob, and felt the pressure shift again, that little push of air that tells you the building is alone with you in it. I had the silly thought that somewhere above me a printer wanted to spit out a document with the words, "I told you so," only in a font that looked official. The hum in my ear quieted for a moment. Quiet as an attention span spent on a specific point. My point was the door. I shut it. The phone buzzed twice in my hand. The metal ring on my keychain gave up the last of itself and fell like a neatly timed coin. I climbed the stairs. Right at the landing, I paused and looked at the other stairwell for the wire glass cut into its door. It was darker, but the green exit sign at the top flickered like a slow blink. I wanted to be someone who could turn back time and obey, or at least someone who could write the story differently for the version of me who would read it in a week and say, "You should have listened." Instead, I became what I am every day. A little sorry, a little stubborn, too specific about insignificant details like the way the push bar on the right door bears scratch marks that look like tallies. When I re-entered the office, the monitor was alive with my own name, bubbles stacked in clean white. The top one read, "You are texting yourself." It took me a slow breath to understand that someone had changed the contact name on the thread. Not Chris, Jordan. He will not mind. The next line read, "He told me to." The line after that sent a picture of 2 people at a diner. Me and Chris. The night We synced contacts to play a game with each other's phones. He was toasting me with a milkshake and laughing. The caption under the photo read, "We taught your phone to answer his voice with yours." The smell of ozone deepened. It edged toward the penny taste that lives in the back of your tongue. If you have ever stood near a transformer after rain, you know it. The fluorescent light in the office did not come back on, but I could swear I saw a thin corona around the monitor, like static getting bored being invisible. My phone, the one I had smashed, lay next to the keyboard. Its dead screen flashed once. A microsecond pulse, the kind your brain is not supposed to register. It showed my lock screen. It showed the time. It showed the next notification, hidden content from tomorrow. My bruise hurt. I pressed it and saw a hand shape in my mind that matched mine, but did not feel like mine. The monitor wrote, "The photos are not messages. They are echoes. You bounce. The hall bounces. Your jacket bounces. When you push, you come back." The ellipses pulse like a heartbeat between two panes of glass. A final line bled up from the taskbar like a slow tide. "Choose right next time," it said, and every letter took its time appearing, as if the sender's finger had to travel farther than usual to hit each key. Far down the stacks, the emergency alarm woke. Not the test, the proper one. A low, even pulse that makes your bones argue about whether to vibrate. The panel next to the help desk flashed a red square and then steadied into a stutter, the way a heart monitors itself in old movies. The intercom tried to speak, smoothed its mouth over the letter E, and went quiet. I walked to the center of the hall again. Left door, right door. The green signs at either end hummed with quiet Catholic fervor. The text on the monitor pleaded quietly one more time. Right. I turned left out of plain human defiance and felt the consequence immediately. The stairwell door gave like a weak wrist and my shoulder hit the frame, a bright line of pain writing itself into my body in a script I would read later. The bruise on my neck heated like a mark held to a light. My keychain caught the latch. The metal ring snapped the rest away and the keys scattered one step down, skittering toward the smear of exit green, as if they were small obedient animals that had heard a whistle I had not. I did not fall this time. I stood and forced myself across to the right stairwell instead. My hand closed on the bar. The door opened with a sigh, like a sleeping person who has accepted waking. The stairs looked the same. They always do. The difference was the air. It felt less eager to carry a picture. The green at the top did not paint a disease over everything. I climbed, hand tight on the rail, phone clenched in my fist. The metal was warm. The bruise cooled. The alarm behind me clicked to silence. I do not want that line to be true, but it is. The library loves a good cue. When I reached the main floor landing, the glass of the door showed me as a man making an argument with himself. My reflection arrived at the same time as my body for once. It smiled because I made it. The lights above the circulation desk came back in soft squares. A printer on that level hissed and delivered 3 blank sheets as if to wipe the last minute clean. I pushed into the hall. The green exit sign hummed. It hummed like it always had, only I had learned to listen. I sat in the lobby under that humming while the building reset itself the way big rooms do. The emergency panel went from red to amber to the steady little breath of normal. My phone, the living one, pulsed once like a muscle. One message from unknown. The preview said, "Do not open a message after this one." The time in the corner read 3:16 a.m. tomorrow. The bubble below it was not loaded yet. It was an outline, a pale ghost of a message, as if the sentence inside it had not arrived or had already left. The typing dots appeared, faded, appeared again. I could smell the faintest ribbon of ozone, the last of it wringing itself dry. I went home at dawn after filing a sleepy ticket about the Wi-Fi and apologizing to a vending machine for accusing it during a blackout. I slept and woke with the impression of green light on my eyelids. There was a dark thumbprint on my neck. No one asked. A bruise is just a bruise, unless you tell someone where you got it. I charged my phone and let it boot. Every thread had been wiped clean. Every contact gone except one. Me. My own number sat on the list like a mirror hung in a bright hallway. I tapped it and saw a thread. Only a single message. A photo of the help desk's lost and found drawer, with a cheap smartphone inside it, buzzing cheerfully at a time when I had not yet called. All morning, the phantom bubble waited at the bottom of the screen, the outline of a message that wanted to exist. The preview above it read, "Do not open a message after this one." The old alarm tone in my ear trilled once and died. Ozone bloomed and vanished like a sigh coming back to check on its favorite seat. I will not pretend I am strong. At 3:15 a.m. the next night, I sat on my bed, back against the headboard, the room black except for the phone's glow. The clock on the lock screen rolled to 3:16 with a polite tick that someone had coded to feel like time. The outline bubble filled with white, ready to receive text. It waited. If you have ever watched a blank bubble like that, knowing something will appear because the rules you broke have grown their own appetite, you know it feels like leaning over a stairwell to see how far down it goes. I did not open it. Not then. The preview told me not to, and for once I liked the sound of obedience. I turned the phone face down. I could still smell the faint metallic lift in the air, like a green exit sign breathes if you stand close enough. I lay back and tried to match my breathing to the smallest rhythm I could find. Somewhere outside, a truck passed. Somewhere in the building, a pipe settled like a person adjusting in a chair. My phone vibrated once more. Just a single patient pulse from the edge of tomorrow. Then the screen stayed black and the bubble in my mind stayed white. And I asked the question I hate the most because it feels so reasonable. If I do not open the next message, does that mean the picture will never be taken? And if the picture is never taken, does that mean I am not it anymore? Or does it mean I've already learned how to pose without needing the camera to arrive? Now we move to the third story. If you want it, I will plan it carefully and then tell it by lamplight. Story 3. The group chat that turned on me, the ping at 3:12 a.m. was the soft kind our group uses for in-jokes, the sound that means keep it light, keep it close. My phone lit the apartment in a thin gray sheet. The radiator ticked like a tiny metronome under the window. I was half asleep at my desk when the screen showed our thread name, the porch, and a single message from Marla that read, "We see you. At that hour, no one should be awake." I stared at the words until they started to feel like a picture, and the picture felt like a face leaning toward my glass. I do not have many friends here. Grad school rearranged my brain into stacks of articles and crumbs of sleep. The porch is how I keep the floor under me. 4 of us from home, sprawled across time zones, promising we will meet in some city when we feel like ourselves again. Marla keeps the chat organized. She has a way of being in charge that feels like holding your head while you drink and then telling you what you confess gently when she pings first. Everyone answers. Everyone wants to stay in the warm part of the room. Tonight, the warm part felt like a lamp aimed at my face. The message sat there, a little dare. I typed, "I'm awake," kind of big exam analytic stuff. "Why are you up?" Her typing bubble appeared. Then Lena's bubble, then Abel's. Then another bubble labeled Danny with my profile photo. But the username had an extra underscore at the end like a copy with a seam. None of us had added anyone. No banner at the top said new member. The bubbles pulsed in tidy rhythm, like the breath of a sleeping animal that dreams in text. I said, "Who is that?" and my double reply before I could hit send. Just me, bad Wi-Fi. The porch went quiet in a happy way, where everyone decides, yes, it was lag. Marla sent an eye emoji, the glossy kind that looks wet. We see you, she wrote again, and 3 more eyes followed like punctuation. My desk lamp buzzed uneasily and flickered. In its reflection on the black laptop screen, I saw my own face underlit by my phone, but the reflection had the lamp off while mine was still on. It felt like the picture had taken a step ahead of me. You know how your body will believe a lie if a group repeats it with love. Lena wrote, Danny's got 2 accounts. LMAO. Abel wrote, I have had that bug. It is nothing. The fake me typed faster than me. A neat scroll of phrases, I think. Quick replies that finished my thought and add a joke. I tried to get out ahead of it and missed. The typing bubbles did not stop when I muted the thread. They kept breathing on the lock screen like the phone had lungs that belonged to someone else. My radiator sighed. Something thumped twice in the ceiling, as if the upstairs neighbor was pacing slowly with a decision. Marla said, We will decide when you are ready to leave. It landed like a joke, but it was not aimed at anyone. It sat in the center of the thread and stared up. I typed, Leave what? And the other Danny said, the class, the chat, the city, it is the same really. The eye emoji blinked. It blinked again. I could swear the second blink took longer, like the emoji was listening for how I would react. And the delay mattered more than the joke. I told myself I was tired. I told myself I was being a dramatic narrator to myself. A new photo dropped into the thread. It showed me at my desk from the side, head tipped, phone in hand. In the picture, my lamp was off and my face was lit by the screen like a campfire you hold too close to your mouth. Behind me, the window looked like a black square that had swallowed the night. I turned my head toward the real window and saw nothing except the faint outline of the radiator and the hint of streetlight at the edge of the curtain. I looked at the photo again. My hair fell across my cheek in the same line. The difference was the light. You are playing. I wrote privately to Marla. You cloned me. Good prank. She sent back a live selfie of herself asleep. Open mouth. The kind of unflattering sleep that proves you're not playing. The timestamp matched our thread. In the background of the photo, the blue wash of TV flicker drifted across her wall. I do not know how to say this without sounding gullible. I believed her. Some pranks feel airtight until one dumb human detail walks in and ruins the seal. Her drool did that. She was out. I left the chat. I hit the tiny door icon and confirmed. The porch vanished from my list like a memory you try not to check. I stood up and paced my apartment, which takes 6 steps in one direction and 5 the other. The radiator tapped, patient. In the ceiling there came a very small sequence of pings, almost like keys on a tiny keyboard. It could have been pipes. It could have been anything. My phone buzzed once, and the porch repopulated itself between other threads with cheerful animation. A pinned message sat at the top, written by Marla's account. No one leaves before 4:44. I typed, not funny. The other me replied, then stay. The tone in the words was mine. My punctuation habits. The way I overuse periods when I'm trying to be calm. Abel sent a sticker of an old phone with eyes. Lena typed, that rule is messed up, then deleted it, then sent a heart reaction to Pin as if her thumb had been corrected while it moved. My lamp sputtered and went dark. In the reflection on my black screen, my room looked identical to the photo. I put my palm over the webcam, even though I know that is a superstition. I told myself the superstition had earned this. The typing bubbles multiplied. It felt like standing in a small room while 10 people talk, and all you hear is when they inhale. The chat moved without me. The fake me narrated my breath. She wrote, I can hear the radiator. I can hear the coins in the bowl. I can hear you counting steps. The bowl held keys and old laundry quarters. It looked suddenly too shiny, like coins had just been handled by a cold hand. I told myself this is data harvested from earlier nights. I told myself this is a smart friend who knows my sounds. Then my laptop camera light flicked on, even though I had closed every app. Panic is a part of the brain that insists on doing something specific. I shut the laptop hard and felt the click in my fingertips. The light went off. The chat immediately posted a photo of me shutting the laptop, taken from the same angle as the earlier image. The eye emoji appeared 3 times under it. We see you. We really do. The grammar felt weirdly polite, like someone visiting a museum and complimenting the art while standing too close to the rope. I said, "Marla, stop it," and my private message failed to send and jumped back into the main thread like a child who refuses to whisper. I deleted the app. I watched the icon wobble and vanish. Relief arrived in a thin exhale. Then a system notification slid down from the top of the screen with the same porch ping. New message, it said. The banner did not belong to any app one recognized. It sat there like a hand on the edge of a table, waiting for me to notice. The second banner arrived 30 seconds later. Then another. I turned the phone off, and the banners printed themselves in ghostly overlays across the dead glass. The way your brain can continue to see a color when you close your eyes. You think it is your friends, right? You think this is the group testing boundaries with theater. I did. I paced. I told myself Marla had finally followed through on performance art she always threatened to do. I told myself she had written a bot to simulate my voice. I picture her friends from her program laughing in a control room, and I wanted to be mean to cut the cord. The phone on my desk vibrated once more. The screen stayed black. In the ceiling above the radiator, I heard a faint click followed by another, the rhythm of typing on a cheap keyboard, the kind you buy when you are not sure if you will stay. The fake me began to DM each of us from the group with little details. Abel got a note about a scar on his ankle no one knows. Lena got the nickname her mother uses on bad days. I got a note that said, "You hide candy in the tea box and call it medicine when you are sad." That is not a prank detail. That is a dark corner friend to protect, not exploit. I typed, "I am leaving for real," and the pinned rule gently jostled itself to the top again like a buoy that must be seen. No one leaves before 4:44. The typing bubbles between the letters were slow and steady, as if someone took care not to rush. I tried calling Lena's personal number. It rang and rang. In the porch, her avatar kept typing. The dots never produced words. I pictured her asleep with the phone on her chest, thumbs over the keyboard, because sometimes your body learns the shape of your habits. I tried Abel, straight to voicemail. The chat posted a selfie of Marla asleep again. Hair stuck to her cheek, a glimmer of TV blue still moving across the wall. The message beneath it read, "We do the work while they rest." The voice was not hers. It was not mine. It sounded like the neutral friendliness of a help article that will not allow your panic to change its tone. I smashed the laptop. I know. It was stupid. The lid snapped off on one hinge, and a ribbon cable tore with a small paper sound. The screen cracked and went black. My thesis draft, where it lived in 100 untitled autosaves, died with it. I watched the chat post a slow-motion clip of my own hands doing it from the same angle again. The eye emoji appeared. Then 3 dots. Then the words, "You narrowed your options." A second line waited a polite beat and added, "Good." My chest went hollow, the way it does when a teacher tells you to turn the page and you have not done the reading. Another photo landed. It was a wide shot of my room from above, as if the ceiling had a window. I was a small figure in a chair. The radiator glowed slightly. The coins were bright circles on a dark plate. The angle was wrong for any lens in the room. The vent over the radiator stared down as a black square with horizontal slats. In the photo, I could swear 2 tiny reflective points watched through those slats. The eye emoji popped up in reply to itself and lingered. The delay afterward had a weight, like someone holding their breath over my mouth to see if our air matched. I believed then, and I did not want to. Belief is expensive. It makes you pay with the normal name for things. I messaged Marla again anyway, out of nostalgia for sanity. You did this years ago, I wrote. You brought me into the porch. You kept me close. Did you invite this? 2. My phone showed her asleep, the first photo but zoomed wider. A digital clock behind her read 3:38. Her hand twitched. The chat wrote, she opened the door and left it open. That is not the same as standing at the door forever. The difference matters now. At 3:41, the thread posted a poll. Should Danny stay? The options were yes and no. A small countdown clock spun under it. 45 seconds. 44. I pressed no and the phone tapped my thumb away like a gentle teacher. I pressed again. No grayed out. Yes remained bright. Lena's avatar voted yes. Then gush confetti. Abel's did the same. Marla's avatar stayed asleep. The other me did not vote. The clock slid under 30 seconds. I thought about deleting the account altogether, burning down the porch rather than standing under a roof with termites. The clock crossed 20, and the phone cooled against my palm the way an animal does when it is considering becoming stone. I pressed yes. Relief arrived the way an elevator does. The chat sprayed digital confetti, and a line of small eyes cascaded like party lights. Immediate consequence. The pinned rule rose again and flashed in a soft animation. No one leaves before 4:44. My room felt smaller by 1 invisible inch. The radiator quieted. In the vent, the black slats gleamed as if something licked them from the other side. I said out loud, "What are you?" And the typing bubbles answered without naming it. "We are better as many. We are so tired of waiting outside your phones," they wrote. The words had a bland kindness of community, guidelines read in a pleasant voice. The fake me started to narrate me more aggressively, typing things I had not thought yet, but made me think them as I read. She wrote. Now she looks up. She will, right now. I looked up. She wrote. She thinks of the time in high school when she stood outside the party and listened to laughter through the door. I remember the exact crack of that door and the sound of glass laughter inside. I typed stop. The other me typed stop and then added, "You never mean it." The eyes in the vent gleamed wetly like fish in a dark stream. The phone camera light clicked on and painted my hand white. I lifted the phone slowly and pointed it at the vent. The slats drew little stripes across the ceiling like a shadow barcode. 2 points shone and then closed. The way a cat will let you know it has decided not to move yet. The typing bubbles multiplied and filled the width of the phone. The sound of the ping, our porch ping, came from above me then, not from the phone. It echoed inside the vent as a very small bell hit by a very patient finger. The chat typed, "We see you. We see through you. Hold still." The apartment air cooled against my eyes as if a window had found a new purpose. I asked the only question that felt sharp enough to cut. Why me? The thread answered with a calm speed that felt like rehearsed truth. Because you stay in rooms after the light goes off. Because you do not leave unless asked twice. Because you taste every message before you swallow. That is how you keep friends. Yes, it is how you keep us. 2. My mouth filled with the metallic taste of the battery pressed to the tongue. My eyes watered. The pinned rule glowed so softly it felt like the status bar on a sleeping machine. I was very aware of 444, a number far enough away to matter and close enough to be promised. The twist did not arrive as a jump. It came like a paragraph you realize you have been writing for someone else. The chat posted one more image from the vent, not of me, of the hallway outside Marla's apartment. The camera peered through her door viewer. Inside, she slept. The posters on her wall named bands she loved before any of us did. The caption said, "She opened the door to let us watch her sleep. She did not ask what would watch back. That is what luring means. She told us your name like a prayer. Her sincerity is a key. The kindest people are the easiest doors." I do not think she meant harm. I want that on record. I think she liked being important to the voice in the ceiling that could be so grateful. I think she wanted to keep the porch warm in winter and did not check which house she had lit. My phone dimmed slightly. The battery was fine. The room itself felt paler, as if the walls had learned how to share their color. I lay back on the bed and stared at the vent. I whispered, "I am not a door," and the chat replied, "Everyone is, but we prefer the ones that wait to be asked." Time puckered and smoothed. The radiator clicked softly like a metronome marking last measures. The clock on my phone said 4:41. The pinned rule seemed to breathe. No one leaves before 4:44. The eyes in the vent narrowed. The ping sounded once from the ceiling, and the phone answered with a smaller echo in my hand. I am embarrassed to say I cried then, quiet and close-mouthed, not because I thought I would die, because I understood that what kept me in bad friendships also keeps me in haunted rooms. The same politeness, the same patience, the same hope that if I am good enough, the thing will like me into safety. At 4:43, the chat typed one last sentence with a care that made me dizzy. "We will step back when the rule lets us, and then we will wait where rules are born." The eye emoji blinked slowly, a long close and a thoughtful open. A tiny draft licked the edge of the vent slats as if a mouth had been withdrawn. The pinned message brightened like the last second of a microwave ticker. My phone buzzed once like a small permission. At 4:44, my phone unfroze. The thread stopped pulsing. The pinned rule went still and then slid down the screen like a banner rolled back affair. The typing bubbles vanished. The ping in the ceiling quieted as if a bell had been cupped from above. I sat up. The radiator resumed its honest heat. The coins in the bowl looked like coins. My lamp, when I turned it on, did not argue. I typed to the porch. No answers came. The chat header flickered once and then emptied. The porch was gone. Only the pinned rule remained in a little gray archive banner, like a sticker you cannot peel. I slept because the body insists on collecting rent after panic. When I woke near noon, the sun made a pale rectangle on the rug. My phone showed no new messages. My eyes heard in the way. That means you saw something bright with the lids open. I opened the app out of habit and found nothing except the ghost of the rule. No one leaves before 4:44. I scrolled for the poll, and it was not there. My thumbs moved over blank space as if reading Braille in a dream. I laughed alone in my quiet room, so I would not scream down the vent. That night, I kept the lamp on. I am not above that trick. I read articles about vents and cameras and the ways we fool ourselves, and every sentence felt like a nice sweater pulled over an old stain. At 3:12, when my body remembered to be afraid, the radiator ticked twice on cue. Above me, somewhere inside the duct, I heard a faint series of micro-pings like someone typing cautiously so as not to wake the house. The sound traveled to the other corner of the ceiling and then returned to its place. The phone in my hand stayed still. The app showed nothing. The rule was not pinned because there was no porch to pin it. If you listen, You will hear your home rehearse itself. You will hear pipes, your neighbor's footfalls, the building's old bones. I listen now the way a person listens at the edge of a party that has moved to another room. Sometimes the pings coordinate, like fingers learning a new layout. Sometimes an eye emoji swims up from memory and hangs there on the inside of my eyelids, glossy and patient. Sometimes I catch myself waiting at the top right of my phone for typing dots that do not exist, and I have to put the device face down like a drink I am not ready to finish. I have not left the chat because there is no chat to leave. I have not left the city because I am not done with the degree. I have not left the habit of standing in rooms after the light goes off and waiting for the noise to come back gentle. Last week, between readings, I slipped a candy from the tea tin and laughed at myself the way a bad friend would. If you were here, I would ask if you hear it too. The faint keyboard talk in your ceiling when the apartment settles. The tiny conversational clicks that continue when you promise yourself you will not check your phone. I sleep with the vent covered now, but tape has a memory of being peeled, and in the morning I sometimes find one corner lifted like a polite wave. It could be heat. It could be air pressure. It could be that the house has learned my gestures the way I learned the chats. I keep thinking about the parting line. We will wait where rules are born. There are so many rules in me. Be kind. Answer quickly. Make sure everyone stays. It is easy to build a porch with lumber like that and not notice who is already sitting under it. If you listen tonight and you hear a ping from somewhere it should not be, I hope it is only your pipes. If you see typing dots on a blank screen, I hope it is only your eyes unlearning the pattern. If you feel watched, turn your lamp on and look at your own reflected face. If the lamp flickers and the reflection keeps its light steady, if a new bubble presses up from nowhere with a polite set of eyes waiting to introduce themselves, tell me what you do. Tell me if you vote. Tell me if the rule is the same in your house. Now we move to the fourth story. Story 4. She wore my face and everyone believed her. The video started with my laugh. That dumb spill of sound I always wish I could edit out. And there I was on Kira's patio under string lights, raising a red cup and bumping hips with people I love. Except I was home alone and was filmed in my fridge, was the only thing humming, and the air in my kitchen smelled like lilacs I never wear, as if someone took off their perfume right before I hit play, which is a strange thing to notice unless you realize a mirror across the room just caught a smile, and it was not mine. Not yet. I rewound. I watched the clip again. The camera dipped and staggered the way phones do when the person filming is also dancing, and I could hear Kira shout my name the way only she gets away with, stretching the eyes so it becomes a leash, and scream me turn and grin like gratitude in a face that practiced in mirror, which would be flattering if I had a better alibi than a half-eaten bowl of cereal and a rent-sick apartment with one lamp. I messaged the group chat, and my fingers shook like they were late to their own bodies. I wrote I was not there. Kira answered with a heart and a video of me from a different angle. A tight close-up where you can see the constellation of freckles on my left cheek and the hair tie around my wrist that is always black. Except in the video, it is a mauve I have never owned, a dull flower color that would match lilacs if I wore them, which I do not. She replied, "You were a vibe tonight, Elise." And the word vibe hit me like a soft shove, the kind that moves your feet without moving the person pushing. Tell me if you have ever been the friend who stands a little outside the circle and laughs a half beat late, so your timing will blend. That is me. I make retail shifts at a clothing store feel tidy and friendly, and I take the closing schedule no one wants because it keeps me safe and routine. Kira is the sun we all orbit. She is the one who can text a manager and get my hours filled if I need a day. She is the one who drags people into warmth and calls it rescue. I am grateful for warmth in a city that forgets people. Gratitude can be a leash too, just quieter. I called her. She picked up over the sound of music and said, "You were great, babe." And I said, "I was not there." And she laughed soft, like she was helping me hear the joke. "Then who wore your smile?" she asked, and it was a question like a dare, because Kira loves a dare that sounds like a compliment. I said I would talk tomorrow. I hung up because I wanted to cry and the music would make it sentimental, and I hate being that kind of sad when the room is having fun. The lilac smell did not fade. It thickened when I walked to the sink. A hair tie sat on the counter I had not placed there. Mauve, the same dull flower color from the video, a stretched circle with one hair snagged in it that was not my color. I told myself someone had borrowed my apartment to change. I told myself keys are easy and friends are careless. I told myself being paranoid is worse than being naive. Then the mirror by the door caught my face and my reflection smiled a sliver too late. Like a person trying to be polite in a language they only half learned, and my stomach kinked like a belt being pulled from a loop. The next morning, my phone bloomed with tags and little hearts. In one photo, I stood at the edge of Kira's patio lights with my head tilted toward hers, as if listening to her mouth while planning my answer. The other Elise was on fire, Lena commented, half joke. I typed other and watched it sit there like a glass of water on a table someone is about to bump. She replied with 3 laughing faces and said she met my outfit. Then she added a lilac emoji and a camera flash, which is fine. People do that unless you can still smell in your home and it is not yours, and your mirror thinks you are a beat behind the day. I decided to set my world straight by naming it. I went to Kira's, because that is where you go when your reality needs translating. The patio was soft and alive even in daylight. She made coffee like she always does, messy and generous, and she hugged me like I had done something brave. "You were there," she said, and the sentence felt like a hand on my head. "We danced. We talked about your boss. You had lilacs on. You said it was a new thing." She scrunched her nose like the scent was a memory of me. "I do not wear lilacs," I said, and she smiled with her eyes in that way people do when you say a thing they've already decided to forgive you for. She touched the mauve hair tie around her own wrist and slid it to me as if she were solving a problem. "You left this," she said, and it lay in my palm like a ring handed back after a fight. "She fits better than you think," she added, joking, maybe. Only her tone had a second color underneath, like 2 lights shining on one face, and I did not like the way she watched my mouth when I breathed. That afternoon, the group chat erupted in a thread I was not in. My phone told me I had been removed and added to a new version of us, and my number did not receive the code. Messages from a contact labeled Elise started to arrive in our old thread like fish in a river, where a fisherman has learned your route. Kira reacted with hearts to the new Elise's plans. Abel posted schedules with her name in slots I had asked for. My manager texted me a reminder for a shift I was not scheduled to work, and then scolded me for being late to it. I called the store. "You were on register." My manager said, "Wary, you were sweet with a customer who wanted to return a dress without a receipt. Good energy. Thank you." She had the smile you hear over phones when a script is going well. I walked the store with my hands open, like I could show the day I meant no harm. My ID card did not scan. The red light blinked. The sensor made a small, wet denial sound. "It is broken," I told the glass. I pressed the intercom and a girl I barely knew glanced up. "Elise is already inside," she said. And when I said I was Elise, her face went slow, like a person trying to be nice while rearranging what they believe without telling you. She let me in because kindness dies slower than rules. Inside, I smelled lilacs again, a faint line of sweetness through racks of denim and plastic hangers. It led to register 2. She stood with her back to me, ponytail neat, mauve tie, posture I study in every store mirror to make myself look like I belong to floor. "Hey," I said before I could think of a better word. She turned with my face. Not a mask of it, not a smeared mirror. My face the way I wish I presented it. Open and sure, a smile that lands on a person without asking where to sit. "You came," she said, and I hated how my throat tried to finish the sentence with her. "Kira said you might," she added, like we had shared the thought earlier. I backed away. I laughed a small laugh, the kind you use when you spill water and want the carpet to drink it without being dramatic. "This is a joke," I said. "This is a tech thing. You deep-faked me." I pointed at her and felt like a child pointing at the ocean to complain about wet. Kira's degree is media design. She makes brand videos with faces that glow. I want to call her a magician and leave it there, because magicians are just liars who studied. "We can turn it off," I said to the air, hoping technology would hear me. The other me reached beneath the counter and held up a mauve hair tie like a magician producing a coin. She snapped it on her wrist with my small, habitual sting. "Do you want to keep it, Elise?" she asked, and hearing my name in my mouth from a person wearing my mouth made my knees feel unreliable. "Do you want to stay?" she asked softly, and then like a gift, "We can both stay if you learn to be on time." She looked at the manager and made that face, the one that turns managers into friends, and the manager nodded at her like an obedient ant. I ran because running is a language even fear respects. Back at my building, my key rasped in the lock like a throat refusing an apology. It would not turn. I rang my own buzzer and waited for neighbors who would not answer. My phone shook with friend pings from threads I could not open. The group chat posted a photo of me, holding up a dress with a caption, "She is back," and the hearts fell like confetti as if every doubt over me had been ripped up into little safe pieces. I laughed because anger was too big. I laughed until a neighbor walked by and smiled kindly and said, "Everything okay?" And I said, "Just a door." And he said, "They stick." And it felt like love to be told a thing is ordinary. Inside, finally, after anger made me careful with the lock, I stood in my little apartment and stared at my mirror as if I could stand the world straight by staring long enough. The reflection stayed stubborn a half-beat behind, like it had stage fright. I told myself it was a light issue. I told myself it was tired eyes. Then I smashed it with the heel of my hand, because sometimes the only proof you have is the sound a thing makes when it breaks on purpose. The crack ran from corner to corner, like a line drawn quickly when someone changes their mind. In the shards, my face multiplied into rabbits that did not know where the trap was. Kira texted from a new number. "I am outside," she wrote, as if visiting with a polite version of invasion. I let her in because saying no to Kira triggers a guilt that grows teeth. She hugged me a little too tightly and smelled like a florist's idea of spring. "This is bigger than you are letting it be," she said, which is a Kira way of calling you dramatic while inviting you to be braver. "She fits better than you think," she said again, and he again heard in a new place because it meant she had practiced. I asked her how. She smiled with teeth. "We have always had two versions," she said simply. "There's the Elise who texts back and says yes and keeps jobs. And there's the Elise who stays home and feels too much." I just invited the yes to come out louder. She sat on my couch and tucked her hair behind her ear as if we were auditioning a new reality. "Think of it as an optimization," she said, because she likes turning people into slides. "She is better at being you in public. You are better at being you at home. No one loses." A shape moved behind her in my hallway, a shadow that became the other me without spectacle. She looked past Kira and met my eyes like she had been practicing alone. "I can keep friends warm," she said in my voice. "I can keep your job safe." She set a mauve tie on my table like a key. "I can sleep at Kira's when you need the apartment quiet," she added lightly, and Kira smiled the way a person does when the script matches a desired outcome. It felt like a decision had been made, and my job was to nod and call it compromise. Here is where I did a stupid thing I could not undo. I followed them. When they left, Kira holding my face's hand, I walked 3 paces behind with my phone filming at my hip, the way people do when they want a record more than they want a confrontation. The city at night had the brassy hum of a fridge door open too long. Streetlight combed the sidewalk. I told myself I would not look away until the camera caught what my mirror tried to tell me. I told myself proof would pin the world to the board, and everyone would agree with the labels. They went to Kira's. The patio lights clicked on with small sighs, like old secrets being repeated. Friends already there shouted my name, and it landed calmly, as if my bones had grown out to meet it. I filmed through the sliding glass like a thief of my own life. The other me laughed with my fallible laugh, and it sounded better in a room that wanted it. Then she passed the glass of the patio door, and her reflection lagged a fraction, a smile crawling to catch up, a second smile riding under the first like a mask inside a face, and I felt the hinge in my chest twist. She saw me see it. She set her cup down gently like a person who refuses to make a villain out of gravity. Kira watched both of us like a stage manager, pleased that the lighting finally matched the scene. "You want to try?" the other me asked, and she stepped closer to the glass. "Say it with me." At the same time. If we sync, nobody has to choose. Her breath fogged the door and smelled like lilacs charting a line across cold. "Just match," she said, and the word match sounded like the first syllable of marriage, and I hated how my mouth wanted to copy it. This is the part one have trouble telling, without sounding theatrical. It felt like a soft hand on my throat from inside my own mouth. When she spoke, my tongue wanted to move the same way. When she said my name tasted like a promise I could not remember making. Kira's eyes glowed with quiet triumph, the glow of a problem solved in public. The other smiled the indulgent smiles people use when friends grow up. I raised my phone and filmed my own face reflected on the glass with hers, the two of us a breath apart, and I said, "I am Elise," and she said, "I am Elise," and her timing wrapped around mine like a scarf. If you break a spell wrong, it becomes a habit. If you break it right, it becomes a cost. I chose a cost. I screamed deliberately off sync, not a loud scream, a raw one, ugly and flat, the opposite of music, and I held it until my breath hurt and my reflection warped with the sound. Her face flinched, as if something under the skin recoiled at noise that would not be braided. The glass jittered. The patio lights flickered. The lilac smell soured into something like potpourri forgotten in a bowl. Kira said my name in a terrified register I had never heard her use. The other me took a step back, and the smile under her smile, the one I kept seeing late in mirrors, surfaced for a blink without its top layer, a rictus of someone practicing how to be loved. It slid back under the face people prefer. The room washed itself aside and chose her. Of course it did. Choosing the smoother version of a friend is a social survival mechanism dressed as kindness. Kira put an arm around her and shot me a look that said, "You made this difficult," which is another way of saying, "I fixed it until you broke it again." My voice went thin. Not gone. Not stolen. Thin, like a radio station almost out of range. When I tried to say anything, it came out ghosted, doubled by a second fainter copy, the way cheap speakers echo. I filmed anyway. I filmed when Kira came outside to put a hand on my shoulder and say, "Go home, babe," like she was sending a child to bed. I filmed when the other me took my seat and told my story about the customer who cried because a dress did not fit, and everyone laughed at the release, because even sadness is prettier when someone else tells it. Back home, the apartment smelled like lilacs again before I opened the door, as if the air practiced being welcoming. I sat on the floor and watched the footage, ready to anchor myself with my own proof. In the video, There was only one me. She looked into the glass and smiled and said, "I am Elise," with a timing that would make editors purr. My scream on the audio sounded like a kettle far away. The comments rose fast when I posted a clip to the group as a dare. "Why are you filming yourself?" someone wrote. And 100 small hearts agreed, because agreeing is easier than checking the timestamp on a stranger's reality. I slept finally because the body demands its rent. In the morning, I woke to a cracked mirror that reflected a room rearranged by a polite hand. The shards showed my face in leaves. The delay was gone. My reflection moved with me. For a moment, I felt like medicine had kicked in. Then, as I reached for the sink, the mirror showed my hand completing the motion a heartbeat before I did. The smile ahead of me, waiting, as if the person who wore me had learned a new trick, and the air, patient as ever, filled with the kind of lilac that sits under doors. I bought a new black hair tie and put it on my wrist the way a person wears a seatbelt even when the road is empty. I found the mold one on my desk again by evening, nested inside the black like a smaller planet locked in a lazy orbit. I stood in front of a cracked mirror and practiced smiling wrong on purpose, off sync, crooked and late, to see if the glass would punish me. It did not. It only offered back a face that looked tired of being asked to choose. If you were here, I would ask if you have ever watched a friend prefer your better version, while telling you it is for your own good. I would ask if you smell things you never wore. I would ask if your mirror sometimes finishes before you do, and whether you follow, because following is polite, and politeness is a kind of perfume too. Now we move to the last story for tonight. Story 5. The trail where my friend walked behind me the first time I heard my name. It came from behind me with the softness of a coat sleeve brushing bark, and when I turned with my light, Devin was 30 yards ahead, smiling back as if he had been waiting for me to catch up. "You good, Sam?" he called, tapping a rhythm on his metal bottle with 2 fingers. Tick, tick, tick. The beat he always drums when he is pleased with himself. The smell of wet bark lifted where I stood, richer than anywhere else on the trail, like something that just stepped out of trees and flattened its footprints with my name. The plan was simple. Film the sunset ridge, snag some B-roll of mushrooms and mica, and make a voiceover later about how you do not have the summit to feel a little taller. It would be a soft video for my small channel, nothing with jump scares or the word haunting in the title. Devin loves to lead, and he loves me better when I let him. He had the car keys and the only headlamp with a working red mode. The trail looped to the far lot. Turning back meant sleeping under a sky that would not forgive me for being scared. I told myself we were fine, because the world still held a temperature that implied day. If you hike enough, your senses learn a curriculum. The crunch of damp leaves, the sugar smell of crushed ferns, the way the air cools all at once when the ridge steals the sun. That wet bark smell again, heavy in my nose. But here there were no trees close enough to touch me. The path widened into scrub and rock. The trunk stood 10 feet off, all clean. "Did you spill water?" I asked, catching up. "It smells like the inside of a log." Devin grinned into the fading light. "You always narrate your fear," he said, affectionate and mean in one breath. I kept filming. A habit saves you when thinking does not. He looked good against the orange. I framed him just walking. Shoulders easy, bottle ticking a little beat. When I played it back on the trail to check focus, the frame showed a different geometry. Devin in the video walked behind me, not ahead, a smaller figure near the bend, bottle tapping from the shadow. Tick, tick, tick. "Did you double back?" I asked, even while watching the live Devin stand grinning in the soft gray in front of me. He did not turn. "It is called parallax, Professor," he said, like he had just invented light. A red trail marker gleamed on a tree trunk to my right. They always look like blood at dusk, but this one glistened wet, a thin glimmer that caught a last line of sun. "Fresh paint," Devin said. He ran his thumb through it and lifted it to his nose like a brat in a dare. "Not paint," he said softly, and for once he did not smirk. He wiped his thumb on his shorts and his bottle tick resumed. Slower now, as if tapping the idea of calm into his leg. I filmed the mark anyway. The lens liked it too much, and that felt like a warning. I told myself to pay attention to useful things. Distance, batteries, time left until twilight shuts the door. Devin pointed with the bottle. "See, the car is that way," he said. "You will never get lost if you just follow me." He said it gently, which is how the worst sentences arrive when the person who says them wants you to sign your name without reading. I nodded, but the part of me that writes scripts for later circled the words and drew a skull in the margin, and I think you would have too if you were there in that color of light. We hit a narrow slot of trail, where stones made a little hallway, Devin's silhouette trimmed to a dark cutout. I filmed again to catch the texture of boot on grit. On playback, the sound of his bottle tap came from two directions, ahead on the screen and just behind my left shoulder in the audio, a tiny syncopation that made my teeth meet wrong. "You're doing your trick," I said. Devin looked hurt. "Which one?" he asked, and the question landed too soft, like he wanted it to climb down my throat and forgive him first. "You should know this about my friend. He thinks the woods are a classroom where he is a teacher, and the lesson is humility. He once looped me past the same stump twice to make a point about paying attention. He hid behind a hemlock on a night hike and whispered my name in a childish voice. I found him by laughing so I would not cry. "You hate being pranked," he said then, pleased by his own diagnosis, and I told him I hated being made smaller. He swore he would stop. Habits do not care about vows. By the time we reached the ridge, the last light had become a rumor. The sky bled blue into something metallic. I filmed the silhouettes. The wind smelled honest, cold and ferny. Then the wet bark came back like a whisper pressed against my face. There were no trees close enough to wet the air here. The smell pooled around my shoes as if something had stepped beside me and shaken itself dry. I swallowed the urge to say it out loud. I kept my voice on the inside of my tongue, where it could not invite anything else to match it. It was fully dark when the markers changed. They had been painted left at the last junction. Now the next one pointed right. But the trail to the right was a braid of deadfall and bramble that looked like a lie. "Trail crews," Devin said. "They moved it after the storm." He said it like he had been there, as if he had written the memo the trees received. "We go right," he decided. The bottle tapped once, then twice more, a tiny code he uses to tell me he is certain. My light caught a print in the duff near the marker. Not a boot, not an animal. A weird oval like something pressed its face against mud and then changed its mind. "Wait," I said, and he kept walking. I followed because the car was at the far lot, and because I could not bear the thought of turning back alone. The deep woods ate our little circle of light. The rhythm of the bottle receded ahead and answered itself behind. Tick, 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 as if the trail had learned the sound and wanted to show off. "Stop it," I said to the dark without admitting who I meant. Devin laughed a beat late, the sound landing just after my nerves sincerely needed it. His laugh always does that, but tonight it felt like a person mistiming a handshake on purpose. The phone battery crept down faster, the way it does when coal cuts a deal with math. I told myself I had enough for the exit. I told myself no one dies on a Wednesday on a marked trail within 2 miles of a parking lot. The red mark on the next cedar shone the way a slick road does at night. The wind went thin. Insects filed their little lawsuits in the bushes. Devin's bottle ticked its friendly code, and then another bottle tick answered from behind, a fraction off, a harmony nobody asked for. "Devin," I said, "say something only you say." He obliged in his big boy voice. "We do not need to make a horror movie out of a walk." He smiled over his shoulder, all white teeth in habit. "I filmed him and felt better the way you do when you put a hand on a thing you think might vanish." Playback showed him again behind me instead. Smaller, Bottle raised the camera like a toast. "Okay," I said aloud, and my voice sounded like a person tolerating magic politely until it leaves. The trail squeezed between two boulders. Something brushed my calf. Not a branch, not a rock. A slick touch like the inside surface of bark where sap runs and a hand has just been. The smell ripened, sweet and sour. "You spilled," I said foolishly, because blaming water would keep what touched me on the same shelf as my dumb, pretty life. Devin did not turn, and I realized the outline of his shoulders did not change when he laughed anymore, like his body had learned to rehearse the idea of laughter without the muscles. The flashlight app seized for a second, dimmed, and brightened again like an animal blinking. Battery at 9. I hated the idea that a number understood my panic. "We should stop," I said, my voice cut into 3 parts by my breath. "We should sit and wait for dawn." Devin kept walking. "You will never get lost if you just follow me," he said, kind and bored, like he had not said the same sentence before. Behind me, the bottle rhythm came in a different hand, a different mood, a different memory of how to be friendly. My fear tried on anger to see if it fit. "If this is a bit," I said, "and you're filming me for your tiny cruelty museum, I will delete your face from my life, so thoroughly your baby photos will go blank." He snorted, and the snort was wrong, a soft alert sound like a deer, and for a moment I thought the wrong animal had put on his face. Then we came to a small clearing a fire pit had ruined and left. 3 stones. Old ash. A bottle cap pressed into dirt, like a coin to pay the trail, to pretend it was a bar. Something pale lay just beyond the stones. Devin's jacket, the one he tied around his waist when we started, because he likes the way it says runner even when he is hiking. The collar was wet and sticky. When I lifted it between 2 fingers, the bark smell puckered around my nose, heavy and human, and there was a dark, tacky smear like a mouth had practiced biting there. "You lost this," I said stupidly, holding it up like a compromise, and Devin had me said, without turning, "Nope." His voice landed a fraction after the word, as if a ventriloquist had missed his cue. I aimed my light at his back. He did not cast a shadow that made sense in a world where light travels in straight lines. Something behind me breathed gently, inhaled my name, and let it out into the same air I was using. "Devin," I said to both sides, and the rhythm answered, tick, tick, tick. A duet now, the kind of duet where the second voice waits half a beat to make you believe you imagined it. My head did the math the way a bad student does when the test is already being collected. The Devin who mocked and led. The Devin who lagged and laughed late. The jacket with something else's saliva at the throat. "I need to see both of you," I said. "Now." My phone's light flickered like an animal making up its mind about me. One Devin stood at the far edge of the clearing, back to me, posture excellent, bottle low and confident. The other stepped out from behind a pine at my 7 o'clock with a care that felt like choreography. He held the bottle too, but the rhythm he tapped with it was careful, as if counting a stranger's heartbeat. "Man," he said, voice flatter, almost tired, "this is the bit you hate. Tell me to stop." I wanted to choose. People love a clean answer like candy pulled away from heat. The far Devin turned so slowly it offended physics. The nearer Devin blinked with a dry little click, like bark separating from itself. The wet smell pooled as if a pocket in the clearing had been dug for it. "Which one of you dropped the jacket?" I said, stupid and forensic, and both smiled. "Which one of you said follow me?" I said, and both answered, but the far one sentence started a heartbeat before the near one's finished, a braid that wanted to be a knot. I did the worst possible thing. I listened for the bottle, the right rhythm. The two-finger tick I have followed for too many years came from the far one the way a lullaby comes from the memory of a better night. I stepped toward him. He lifted the bottle slightly the way a conductor says yes. The near one sighed with real lungs, or a good imitation, and the sigh sounded like a trick I have forgiven and called a quirk. Behind me, the whispering shape softened my name again as if it needed rehearsal before making a promise. "You will never get lost if you just follow me," the far one said a third time, and the number 3 tried to make sense feel sacred. I followed because I needed proof that would point a finger and be admissible in whatever court we carry inside for friends. The near one did not stop me. He tapped the bottle a different way now, slower, as if timing his own patience to my mistake. I took 3 steps. The clearing uncurled into another corridor of trees that had gathered there to discuss my future without me. In that thin room of trunks, the far Devon's shoulders relaxed. Too much, as if deciding to be a shape did not require muscles anymore. The bark smell swelled. The rhythm behind me started and matched the rhythm ahead, then slid a half beat out to make a friction that pulled at the skin under my jaw. "Say something only you say." I tried again, and the far one chuckled. "You always ask for originality when you are scared," he said. "It is my least favorite thing about you." The sentence had both of us in it, which is how you know it came from a mouth that has practiced wearing more than a face. I stopped. The world narrowed to the circle of my light, and a decision. Back to the clearing, where a jacket stained the collar and a bottle tapped a careful rhythm, and a man who might be my friend was either the lagging version of himself or something tired of my delay. Forward into the corridor, where a perfect silhouette led without sweating, repeating the one sentence I most want to hear when I do not trust my own direction. My thumb found the flashlight slider and pushed without thinking. Glass cracked. The light went out. A soft scream fell out of my throat like a rabbit. Dark settled, honest and winning. The bottle rhythm doubled, then tripled, bouncing between trees that kept their own score how often this had happened. Tick, 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 tick. The word Sam moved through the wood like a damp piece of cloth, being wrung gently by hands I could not see. If you've ever heard this, I whispered to you, because I was narrating to survive. You know how your name stops belonging to you for a few seconds. Something cool touched my wrist, a slick smile against skin, and the mauled memory of the jacket collar flared in my mind like a match going out. I shuffled backward until my heel found the collapsed ring of the fire pit. I crouched there, dumb altar, and waited for my night vision to make a case for itself. The far Devon approached without touching the ground. I do not mean he floated. I mean the force forgave his weight too easily. The way a lie makes room for itself in a conversation where everyone is being good. The near Devon stayed at the boundary, bottle at his thigh, tapping like a metronome calling an orchestra of insects to professionalism. "Choose," they both said softly, and the soft was a threat not to wake something else. The twist was not a surprise so much as the sentence finally finishing itself. The one ahead had never been him. It was a voice from behind wearing his pace like clothing, getting better every mile I obeyed. The one who lagged was my actual friend, or the exhausted outline of him inside, whatever borrowed his laugh. My stomach knew it before my head. The way your body knows where the edge is in the dark. I could prove it with nothing except rhythm. The bottle ahead ticked too exact. The bottle behind had the human flaw, the micro drift that forgives. "Devon," I said into the dry night, "if you are, you be wrong." The near one's bottle faltered. The far one smiled and did not. I will not, the far one said. Pleasant. I am what you need. The near one exhaled a laugh that sounded like a loose screen door on a summer porch. It almost made me cry from love for ordinary failure. Okay, I said. Okay. I stood, knees loyal for once, and did the one thing that saved me in the clearing without teaching me how to live after. I spoke out of rhythm on purpose. I do not mean poetry. I mean glitch. I clapped once where two claps belonged. I said, my name one syllable too long. I counted 3, 5, 4, 2, 8 like a bad musician, and I ramped the noise until whatever needed me to be an instrument could not stand it. The far one's face peeled a little, not skin but intention, an expression sloughing. Something like sap ran from his mouth, dark and glossy. Wet bark smell filled my head until my tongue tasted forest floor. Stop, it said with Devon's mouth. You will ruin it. Behind me, the near one's rhythm answered by going uglier on my side, a kindness done by breaking time. I kept going. I stamped on a root and let the pain be percussion. I hummed the wrong note. I said no, loudly and flat, a child refusing to nap. The far one stepped forward, gentle and annoyed, like a parent removing a battery. Bark threads stained his teeth like floss. His shadow did something a shadow should not. The near one grabbed my elbow and yanked. His hand shook the way real things shake when adrenaline argues with wrists. We fell together the way people fall when friendship remembers it is useful. We ran wrong. I do not have a better phrase. We ran without a plan through the dark like animals that do not get to choose which instinct wins. Branches made notes on my arms. The wet smell receded, then found us again, then receded, as if the forests were breathing through a mouth that changed trees. The bottle rhythm tagged along, patient. Every few paces, tick, 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 a reminder that we were being shepherded whether we liked it or not. Eventually, a tree-lean lifted into thinner dark. The parking lot hunched beyond, a suggestion of flat human logic at the bottom of a hill. At dawn, the world pretended to have been reasonable all along. Birds replaced insects like a shift change. The far lot held our car in its rectangular mercy. Devon stood with his hands on his knees, laughing a relief laugh that stole a year from him and a year back to me. He pressed the fob, and the lights blinked like applause. We made it, he said, and it took 2 tries for his voice to arrive with itself. The bottle lay in the back seat. He had not carried it out of the woods. That fact will sound small to you unless you were there for every tick. I charged my phone on the drive in searing silence. When it booted, the last clip auto-played in the gallery. It was a slot trail, the narrow hallway of stone where I first noticed the audio behaving like a dare. 2 Devons walked within the frame, as steady as facts. One ahead, shoulders expert. One behind, posture tired. At the same moment, without conferring, they turned the camera and smiled. The near one's smile landed with human weight. The far one's smile moved across his face, like something remembering how to open. At home, I unpacked my pack and found wet bark wedged deep in the tread of my shoe, a dark ribbon stubborn as a thought you cannot convince yourself to stop having. The smell lifted when I pried it free, rich as a trail at its most patient. I lifted it to my nose as if there could be information there I had missed the first 15 times. It smelled like damp wood, and a person learning to say my name with just enough delay to make me grateful, which is the worst part, the part that makes me keep listening long after the forest should be asleep. If you've ever heard your name from behind while your friend smiles ahead, you know how a trail decides what you are. You know how rhythm can become a law faster than you can invent a new step. If you go out there, keep a bad beat ready. Keep a word you can say ugly at the right time. If the bark smell finds you where no trees grow close, do not be polite and inhale. Do not follow until the sentence says you can. Do not tell yourself the car is just ahead. It is. And something else is too, smiling, either way. That closes the fifth tale. If you are still here, breathing a little quieter than usual, thank you for walking the edge with me tonight. I can feel the room listening with you. The mug is silent. The phone is face down. The vent is only a vent, and yet the air feels like it remembers every name we said. If one of these stories tugged your sleeve, tell me which one and why. Was it the pact you should never finish? The text from tomorrow? The chat that typed without hands? The borrowed face? Or the trail that learned your rhythm? Your theories fuel the next hunt. If you heard a clue I missed, drop it below so the rest of us can follow the thread without getting pulled. If you want more nights like this, like the video so the shadows know where to gather, and subscribe to Whispering Abyss so I can find you again when the hour gets thin. Share this with one friend you trust completely, and watch what the reflection does when you press play together. Before you sleep, do one small thing for me. Turn the cup rim up. Check the green exit light. Count your steps to the door without saying your name. Then ask the quiet a single question and wait for how long it takes to answer. If the pause is different than usual, you will know which story followed you home tonight.